All right, well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to our Big South Football Media Day special for the Spring 21 season. Our first guest is the Commissioner of the Big South, Kyle Kallander, in his 25th year leading the conference. And Kyle, good morning. Great to see you. Thanks for joining us today. Before we begin, for those who would like to ask a question of the Commissioner, you can go ahead and enter your name in the queue at any time. We'll take those questions as they come in. But with that, Kyle, we will get started. And why don't you tell us how we finally got to this point coming up in 2 weeks?
Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome. Thanks for joining us. Hopefully the next time we do this will be in person in July. So we appreciate you being with us for a second consecutive virtual media day here. You know, back in July when we last did this, we were certainly hopeful, and we were determined to try to make the fall happen, but the momentum got away from us clearly, and we had to pause in the fall. So so that was really too bad. We really wanted to make that happen, but here we are in the spring. You know, we're still facing a lot of the same challenges. We're still dealing with the virus. We're still dealing with a lot of protocols, but I am absolutely confident that we're going to have a spring season. We're going to play. It's going to happen. We're going to crown a Big South champion and compete for the national championship this spring. So I'm really excited about that. And I think if you look at the Big South Conference's track record over the basketball season, you can see the commitment that we have made to our student athletes to help them get out there and have these opportunities. You know, these football student athletes have been waiting for 7 months. And it would be really, you know, in my mind, a crime to not be able to provide them the opportunity to get out there and compete this fall. This basketball season, the last data I saw, the Big South Conference led the country in average games played per institution. And about a week ago, I think we were one of only 2 conferences where all of our men's, men's basketball teams had the requisite number of Division I games played in order to be eligible for postseason. So that shows a commitment on the Big South's part to provide those opportunities, to get those games played, to be flexible, to work out the scheduling so that these opportunities can take place. You know, it's a real credit to our institutions. It's a credit to the work they're doing on campus. Can't imagine what they're having to go through. Really a challenge. A real credit to the student athletes. You know, their persistence, their dedication, their patience. That's really a challenging time for them. So all the credit, you know, to everybody on campus for making that happen and for what's going to take place this spring in football. So we're really looking forward to that. It's gonna be a great season. You know, obviously a little bit different, but you know, you look at our teams coming up for the spring. It's just I'm really excited to see them play. You know, to see Monmouth as a preseason favorite. What a credit to Kevin Callahan and the program he's built up there. Everybody has so much respect for him. And so they're reloading, not rebuilding. And that's clear by the respect that they're being shown. Kennesaw State obviously is having another great team. It's tough to keep them off the podium. So they'll have something to say about it and they'll be really good this spring as well. Looking forward to see the program that Autry's building down at Charleston Southern. He's doing a great job down there. So it's gonna be fun to see the next chapter in what he's doing. You know, Trey is a great story. I mean, he's been trying to get a game played for now 2 years, and he hasn't been able to get across that finish line yet. So he's pumped. He's excited. We're excited to see the imprint he's going to be placing on the Gardner-Webb program. And Robert Morris, I mean, we're excited to have the Colonials in the Big South. We're really looking forward to them competing. Bernard's doing a great job up there. Great leader, doing some great things with that program. So great addition to the Big South, and we're excited to see them compete for the championship. I guess the last note I would say, talking about our future, again, really excited about NCA&T coming in the league in the fall. They're going to be a great member, going to compete for conference championship right away, national championships, really elevate what we're trying to do in football. So we're looking forward to it. We're excited, but certainly I'm sure you've got some questions and happy to address those at this time.
Thank you, Kyle. And again, for those who are looking to ask a question for the Commissioner, please enter your name in the queue and we'll take that in the chat box. We'll take those as they come in. And Kyle, first questions coming from you is from Richard Walker. Go ahead, Richard.
Kyle, Richard Walker, CarolinaSportsHub.com. Obviously a tight window for schedules. How will you negotiate if you needed to push off a game? And is there a minimum number of games teams have to play to be eligible for the championship? Should there be the possibility of games being postponed or even canceled?
Yeah, a couple of things we've built into the schedule. Everybody's got a bye within their schedule, so there's opportunities to potentially reschedule in those bye weeks. And then we've also left the last week of the regular season open as a rescheduling opportunity. So, and certainly we'll take a look as, we're expecting there'll probably be disruptions. It's not unusual, obviously. So we're prepared to deal with that and have tried to accommodate that in the schedule. And to your other question about the minimum number of games, for the AQ, there is not a minimum. But if for an at-large, you have to play, I believe it's 4 games this spring.
Richard, do you have anything further?
That's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Richard.
Next question for you, Kyle, is from David Steele from the Undefeated. Hello, David.
Hi, how are you? How are you all this morning?
Fine, David. How are you?
I am great. Thank you, Commissioner. I know I'm jumping really in early talking about next year, but I'm curious about what has it been like negotiating everything that you've had to go through this year with the pandemic, trying to, put on a season and get everything together for this year. At the same time, you're preparing to add a new team next year in North Carolina A&T.
Well, it's been a roller coaster for sure. You go from near depression, back in the spring and summer where you couldn't believe that you were dealing with some of the things you're dealing with, and you're so far away from really what you were hired to do. But I suppose you look at it, you're hired to lead the conference and you're hired to figure out a way to make things happen. And so that's what we ended up doing. So it has been a roller coaster, but really from the time that we made the decision back in the fall to pause and play in the spring, it's really been very positive. We've worked really hard with staffs on campus, with our coaches, and with leadership to put in place protocols and put in place what we needed to really have a successful and safe season. We've been communicating with NCAA all along. They've been a part of our meetings ever since we announced that they were coming into the Big South next fall. So the communication's been great, been really good working with Earl and with Chancellor Martin and other leaders on their campus. So they've been in tune with what we've been working on, and frankly, we haven't had as much of a chance to work on next year as we normally would, because we've been so focused on trying to make this year happen. There's going to be 24 sports going on in the next couple of months on our campuses. And that's a lot to focus on. We're going to award 17 championship trophies in the next couple of months. So a lot of the focus has been on this spring, but I will say that we've had great communication, with A&T, and again, real excited about bringing them in. And they're fully in the schedules, and we worked on how that's going to work out as we go to 12 full members, and what we're planning on nine members in football in the fall.
Just from a football standpoint, have you had much of a chance to see how they've been handling everything throughout the course of the pandemic? The fact that they've been able to play this year, whereas a lot of their current conference members haven't been able to?
Yeah, they've been very diligent in following appropriate protocols. I know they've been working with the MEAC on that, and certainly with the NCAA, following all NCAA guidelines as we are. So in our discussions with Earl up there, they've really been doing a great job and been very diligent in following those protocols. And obviously they've been doing a great job with it, and their student athletes have been doing a great job with it, because they've been successfully competing and still are looking forward to a spring season.
Yeah, and one last question, and then I may be asking an obvious question, but is the fall 21 schedule out already, or?
Has not been released yet. I think it'll probably be, we were talking about like April, Mark, I think, to potentially get that out. The conference side.
Right. Okay. Great. Thanks very much.
Thank you, David.
Thank you, David. And next for you, Kyle, is Jacob Connolly. Go ahead, Jacob.
Mr. Commissioner, I know everybody wanted to play football in the fall, but what kind of opportunities does it present playing in the spring where the spotlight's shining squarely on the FCS schools? You don't have to compete with FBS this spring. And what kind of opportunities offer for the conference and the teams individually, do you think?
Yeah, thanks, Jacob. That's a great question. I think there's great opportunity this spring to really highlight and shine the spotlight on our programs. You know that this country loves football, and so there's going to be a lot of attention on FCS football this spring. So it really is a chance to really make your mark and really develop a lot of followers and develop a lot of excitement around your program. So we think that we're trying to take advantage of that opportunity with the media coverage. We're trying to take advantage of that opportunity with our relationship with ESPN. And so it's going to be fun to see how that all plays out, and culminating, of course, with the FCS playoffs and championship in April and May. So, again, I think it's a great opportunity for us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jacob. And we'll turn it over to Jeff Hartzell of the Charleston Post and Courier. Go ahead, Jeff.
Good morning, Kyle.
Morning, Jeff. How are you?
Good. Can you clarify for me the future of Kennesaw State and North Alabama?
Well,
In
right
the
now,
Big
Kennesaw
South
State,
football.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
In regard to Big South football.
Yeah. They're full football members in the Big South Conference right now. There have been great members of the Big South Conference. We've loved having them. I think it's been mutually beneficial. So obviously the Atlantic Sun or ASUN Conference is potentially going to add football some point in the future. That's their desire. We certainly understand that. The Big South Conference was in that situation 20 years ago. But until such time as that is put together and we have official notice of that there's a change, that they're leaving, they're a part of what we're doing in the Big South, full voting members. So as I mentioned in the fall, at this point in time, we're looking forward to them being a part of what we're doing as a 9 football team conference.
So having 9 members, that's got to be exciting.
Yeah, it is. It's great. We're looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a great season. It's something, I hearken back to when we first started this league and we only had 4 members. So to be able to continually grow the program, grow the conference, get to that point, achieve the auto bid and get, the desire was always kind of get to the 8 or 9 number. And so for this coming season at this point, what we're looking at, it's really exciting to be a part of what we've built here.
Kyle, not just in your league, but across FCS, we've had teams opt out. Some teams apparently are playing reluctantly. We all sort of assume the players want to play. Have you sought or received feedback from players that they do want to play?
Not recently. That we had discussions in the fall about, when decisions were being made at that point in time, whether or not there was teams were going to play or opt out or where things were going to go. And so there was some feedback at that point from student athletes, but we haven't really for the spring. So we've kind of left that up to the institutions to get that feedback to work with their student athletes on campus.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. We're going to turn over to Michael Hebert from the Times-Union. Go ahead, Michael.
Hey, Mr. Commissioner, how you doing?
Hi, Michael. How are you?
Doing well. Sort of a similar question to what Mr. Hartzell just asked. With the ASUN adding 3 more programs, has there been any clarity as in terms of the partnership with the ASUN, if you would potentially welcome those 3 schools to compete in the fall as well?
Yeah, so we've had a great partnership with the ASUN for the last 5 years, and it's been something that's been mutually beneficial. People have been around the program within Big South, that I've said collaboration's a good thing. I think we need more of that in college athletics. So we want to have a good partnership. We want to work with them. We want to have a good collaboration. And it's really, I know there are ongoing conversations about what everything's going to look like in the fall. At this point in time, it would be difficult for us in the fall of 21 to go beyond our 9 members, just from a timing standpoint, if nothing else. So that's kind of where we are right now. That's why I say we're planning on 9, but there's ongoing conversations, and so never say never, but that's kind of where we are right now.
And I definitely don't want to take away from the spring, but kind of looking back to last fall with, I believe it was Campbell in North Alabama competing in the non-conference schedule. What sort of, I guess, feedback did you have about those schools playing a lot of, FBS schools, and how did that sort of help you sort of develop what you guys wanted to do this spring?
Yeah, when we made the decision last fall not to play, we gave our institutions the autonomy to schedule up to 4 games in the fall. And, we're hopeful that we were going to have as many teams as possible playing in the spring at that point. But again, we weren't forcing anybody to do something they didn't feel like they could or would do. So, it was good for those programs. They did what they felt was right. But at the same time, I think we ended up in a good place in the Big South where we've got a meaningful season coming up. We got 5 teams playing for the conference championship, playing for postseason access, national championships. So I think it worked out real well. North Alabama's in a little bit of a different situation. They're not eligible for the championship yet. So for them to do what they did was completely understandable.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Michael. Next is John McGonigal for you, Kyle. Go ahead, John.
Hi, Kyle. John McGonigal from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. Thanks for doing this.
Hey, John.
Kyle, do you have any, concern that, teams or, specifically players might get worn out by the time the fall schedule rolls around? Because, in the regular season, you're looking at 4, 5, 6 games. If a team from the Big South makes a national title, you're looking at 9 or 10.
Yeah. We've had a lot of conversation about that. We talked about it, within the conference. We talked about it, with the NCAA. And the NCAA's, medical advisory group has indicated, it's perfectly safe and healthy for us to have a spring season. For most student athletes, obviously it's going to be abbreviated. And certainly for a few teams that go deep in the playoffs, you're going to have a little bit extended season. But again, we felt like it was certainly safe. If they weren't competing for the conference championship, they would be having spring practice. And so there'd be some activity there anyway. So, but again, I rely on the medical experts, and what we've heard is that as long as you have adequate recovery time when the season's over, then you should be just fine.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. Next is Paul Newberry from the Associated Press. Go ahead, Paul.
Hello, Commissioner. How are you?
Fine, Paul. How are you?
Good, good. I just wanted to a couple of things kind of on the same point. Is there any kind of regrets about? We know the big schools made it through the season, a lot of canceled games, but they were able to finish and crown a national champion in the regular fall window. It's always easy to, hindsight's always 2020. I guess did the FCS schools make the right decision to sit out in the fall? And as you touched on in your opening comments, kind of a follow-up to that, obviously a lot of the same challenges. It does seem the numbers are going down somewhat, and obviously vaccinations are more and more people are getting vaccinated. But I guess why is it safe now if it wasn't safe in the fall?
Well, great question. I'm not going to say it was a bad decision that was made in the fall. Do I wish we played? Yes, I do. Could we have played? I think if we had the requisite number of teams that were committed to it, yeah, I think we could have. I think we could have had the right protocols in place. Now, would it have been more of a challenge then than now? Perhaps, because we've learned a lot. We've learned a lot about protocols and cadence for testing, and how to manage all that, social distancing. How do you practice? How do you travel? So I think with what we've learned over time, what we've learned with basketball, what we learned from those that did compete in the fall, I think we can conduct it in a safe way.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. We still have time for a few more questions of the commissioner. Again, enter name in the chat box, and we'll take your questions as they come in. Kyle, any last words from your perspective on how or anything you want to share with behind the scenes from how the spring schedule was put together, adding in Robert Morris, any kind of weather considerations, and just all the day-to-day operations of moving from fall to spring?
Well, we were grateful, number one, that Robert Morris was willing to come in with us. Initially, they were going to do it in the fall. You know, they were going to compete with us in the fall when we had revised our fall schedule. You know, when Hampton made the decision not to compete. So we were really grateful that they were willing to do that. And then obviously it's fortunate for both of us that they're with us here this spring, because it helps you know, build the schedule, obviously. You know, what we tried to do with the schedule was to work backwards from the FCS playoffs. We thought it was really important that we have that week available to accommodate potential rescheduling issues, makeup games, and then with 5 you have the buys in there. We actually looked at a schedule where you had another week off in the middle of the schedule somewhere, but in the end felt like we could work through this. You know, the weather wasn't a huge factor when we were talking about the schedule, but clearly we knew that if we try to play as late as possible, that's probably beneficial. My understanding, New Jersey had a couple of feet of snow recently, so it'd be awful tough to be playing up there right now. But so starting in late February, early March, you know, kind of helps with that.
Thank you, Kyle. We are not seeing any more questions, but we'll do one last call for any last questions for the commissioner. Just enter your name in the chat box and we will take that in. I guess one last question I have, Kyle, I don't know, is there any kind of specific testing parameters or testing schedule that our football teams will have for the season?
We follow the NCAA protocols. So everybody's, you know, they started testing when they started preseason practice, testing at least once a week. Some are testing more often than that. And this is a PCR test. If you're going antigen testing, you're testing more often than PCR. So everybody's been very good about following all those protocols. So we feel very good about the safety. We feel good about our officiating program and what they're going through. They're, you know, as people know, we work with the ACC and the ACC roster on officials. They're excited about working football games this spring. So we think we're in really good shape there. They've got a full testing program they're going to be undergoing, you know, beginning the week prior to the first games. So we really feel like we're in good shape from a testing and a health protocol standpoint. And you know, what it comes down to is student athletes have to understand what's at stake, and that's a challenge. I mean, you don't go to college, you know, to sit in your room all the time. So it's a real challenge for them. That's why my hat's off to everybody that's going through this process. But we feel like we're in a really good place right now.
We'll wrap up with David Steele getting in the last question for you. So David, go ahead.
Thanks very much again. Commissioner, was there ever a concern that, and I guess even going back to the fall when programs started opting out, were you ever concerned that there would not be enough teams to play a season even in the spring?
Maybe a little bit, but I really had the sense that we had a number of institutions that really committed to competing for a conference championship this year and really want to provide that opportunity. So never a serious concern, but obviously when we had a few that were making the decision that they wanted to go the other direction and not compete this spring, you know, you have a little bit of concern, but it never, you know, rose to a high level. It was very clear that those that are competing this spring really had the desire to make that happen.
Was there ever a number in your mind, of number of schools in mind, where you say, well, if it ever gets past this, we should really consider calling the whole thing off?
Didn't really give that a lot of thought. You know, we had some conversation if it got down to 3 or 4, what that might look like, but I don't think we ever got to the point where it was a serious consideration. I think we had some conversation with the NCAA back in the fall about, you know, what are the minimums? What does that look like? How many games you need to be playing? So we certainly had those conversations, but again, you know, the 5 that were playing were always committed, and at one point, you know, we thought maybe there would be more than that.
And if I could ask one last, you know, one, are you looking forward to possibly seeing, if things go the right way in both conferences, your conference chance seeing North Carolina A&T in the playoffs at some point?
Absolutely, absolutely. Like I mentioned before, I mean, I think that they're gonna be very good coming into the conference, and yeah, it's very possible that we could see them in the playoffs this April or May. So I'd be a little mixed on that one, I think, but they're an outstanding program. Do a great job.
Oh, great. Thanks very much.
Thank you, David. And Kyle, we'll go ahead and let you go. We appreciate your time today and giving us the update on the state of Big South football entering the spring. So thank you again, and we'll talk to you soon.
Great. Thank you all. Really appreciate your participation and interest in Big South Conference football. Take care. Be safe.